The sticky and sweet tour stop at Detroit's Ford Field on September 4th, 2008, was supposed to be just another show. Madonna was performing in her hometown for the first time in years, and the energy in the stadium was electric. 68,000 screaming fans packed the venue, most of them from Michigan, many of them people who'd watched Madonna grow from a girl named Madonna Louise Ciccone into the queen of pop. Madonna was about an hour into the show, performing Like a Prayer with the full gospel choir, lights flashing, the crowd singing along to every word. She was doing what she'd done hundreds of times before, working the stage, commanding the space, being Madonna. And then, during a turn toward the left section of the floor seats, she saw a face that stopped her cold, front section, about 20 rows back. A woman in her late 40s with auburn hair, wearing a simple black dress, not screaming or dancing like everyone around her, just standing there with tears streaming down her face, staring at Madonna with an expression of such pure emotion that it cut through everything, the lights, the music, the performance, all of it. Madonna knew that face. She'd known it since she was 8 years old. Carol Henderson, her best friend from elementary school through high school. The girl who'd slept over at her house every weekend. The girl who taught her how to apply eyeliner in the bathroom of St. Frederick's High School. The girl who'd been there when Madonna's mother died. The girl who'd promised they'd be friends forever. The girl Madonna hadn't spoken to in 30 years. Madonna stopped singing mid-verse. The music kept playing, the choir kept singing, but Madonna just stood there, staring at Carol Henderson in the crowd, her hands slowly rising to cover her mouth. The band noticed something was wrong. The backup singers glanced at each other. The crowd near the stage started to quiet, sensing that something unexpected was happening. Madonna's musical director looked at her, concerned. She shook her head slightly. "Not a problem, just give me a second," and gestured for the music to fade out. Within moments, the entire production ground to a halt. 68,000 people in Ford Field went silent, wondering why Madonna had stopped Like a Prayer halfway through. Madonna walked to the edge of the stage, never taking her eyes off Carol. She raised the microphone to her lips. "Carol," she said, her voice amplified through the massive sound system. "Carol Henderson?" The woman in the crowd nodded, tears still streaming down her face. "Oh my God," Madonna said. "Oh my God, it's really you." The crowd had no idea what was happening, but they could feel it was something real, something important, something that transcended the scripted performance they'd come to see. Madonna turned to her crew. Can someone bring her backstage? Can we?" She was flustered, stammering, completely unlike the controlled performer she usually was. "I need to talk to her. I need just a minute." Security looked confused. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't planned. But Madonna was insistent. "Please," she said into the microphone, looking at Carol, "please come backstage. I need to talk to you. Her voice broke. "I've needed to talk to you for 30 years. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in emotional gasps and ahs. They didn't know the story, but they understood they were witnessing something authentic. Security helped Carol navigate through the crowd and toward the backstage area. During that time, Madonna stood on stage in silence, occasionally wiping tears from her eyes, while 68,000 people waited in respectful quiet. When Carol was finally backstage, Madonna looked at the crowd. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know you came for a show, but I need a few minutes. There's someone I haven't seen in a very long time. Someone who—" She paused. "Someone who matters." The crowd applauded. Supportive, understanding applause. Madonna handed her microphone to a stagehand and walked off stage. Backstage in a small corridor, away from the chaos of the production, Madonna and Carol faced each other for the first time in 3 decades. Up close, they could see how time had changed them both. Madonna, despite the fame and the wealth and the image, still had the same eyes Carol remembered from childhood. And Carol, despite the years and the weight of whatever life it brought her, still had the same gentle smile. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Madonna spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry." Carol shook her head. "No, I'm the one who should be sorry." "No," Madonna insisted. "I said terrible things. I blamed you for something that wasn't your fault. I cut you out of my life when you needed me most." Carol interrupted. "You were protecting yourself. You were protecting your dream." And then the story came out. The story that had ended their friendship 30 years ago, that neither of them had spoken about publicly, that had haunted both of them for decades. It was 1978. Madonna was 19 years old, freshly moved to New York City with $35 in her pocket, determined to make it as a dancer, as a singer, as something. Carol was still back in Michigan, working at a local diner, dating a guy named Mark, who worked at the GM plant. Mark had been Madonna's boyfriend first. He'd been her high school sweetheart. They dated for 2 years, talked about getting married after graduation. But when Madonna decided to move to New York to pursue her dreams, Mark couldn't understand it. He wanted to stay in Michigan, get a good union job, buy a house, have kids. He wanted the life his parents had, the life everyone they knew had. Madonna wanted more. She wanted everything, and she chose her dreams over Mark. 3 months after Madonna left for New York, Carol called to tell her that she and Mark were dating. Carol said she was sorry, that she hadn't planned it, that it just happened. But she wanted Madonna to hear it from her, not from someone else. Madonna, struggling to survive in New York, eating out of dumpsters behind restaurants, sleeping in abandoned buildings, told Carol that she was a traitor, that she'd stolen her boyfriend, that she'd betrayed their friendship, that she never wanted to speak to her again. Carol tried to explain. She said that Mark had been devastated when Madonna left, that he'd needed someone, that she'd been there for him, and something had developed. She said she loved him. She said she was sorry, but she couldn't help how she felt. Madonna hung up on her, and for 30 years they never spoke again. "I married Mark," Carol said now, standing in the corridor backstage at Ford Field. "We had 3 kids. We were happy for a while, and then," she paused, "he left me 12 years ago, for someone else, someone younger. Turned out Mark was really good at leaving women for other women." Madonna's hand went to her mouth, and for 12 years, Carol continued, "I've wanted to tell you that you were right, that I shouldn't have dated him, that our friendship should have mattered more, that she started crying harder, "that I threw away the best friend I ever had for a man who didn't deserve either of us." Madonna shook her head. No, I was wrong too. I blamed you for Mark's choices. I blamed you for my own insecurity. I was scared that I'd left Michigan and everyone I loved for a dream that might never come true. And when you and Mark got together, it felt like proof that I'd made the wrong choice, like I'd chosen ambition over love and I was going to end up alone. But you didn't end up alone, Carol said. You became Madonna. You became everything you dreamed of. And I lost you, Madonna said simply. I lost the girl who sat with me at my mother's funeral. I lost the person who knew me before any of this. I lost the friend who would have told me the truth when everyone else just told me what I wanted to hear. They stared at each other, 30 years of hurt and pride and stubborn silence standing between them. I've followed your career, Carol said quietly. Every album, every tour, every movie. I bought your records even when Mark said it was stupid. I watched your videos even when it made me cry, because I missed you so much. I came to this concert tonight because, she paused, because I needed to see you one more time, even if it was from a distance, even if you'd never know I was there. I saw you, Madonna said, In a crowd of 68,000 people, I saw you, and I knew you immediately. Because some people," her voice broke, "some people you can't forget, no matter how hard you try." Carol wiped her eyes. "I don't expect anything. I don't expect us to be friends again. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. That I've been sorry for 30 years. That losing you was—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Madonna reached out and pulled Carol into a hug. Not the careful celebrity hug she'd learned to give to strangers. A real hug. The kind of hug they used to give each other when they were teenagers, sharing secrets in Carol's bedroom. "I missed you so much," Madonna whispered. "I missed you so much, and I was too proud to admit it." They stood there, crying and holding each other, while Madonna's entire production crew worked around them. While 68,000 people waited in the arena. While the most choreographed show in music history sat on pause because something more important was happening. Finally, they separated. Madonna wiped her eyes, smearing her carefully applied makeup. "I have to go back out there," she said. "I have a show to finish." Carol nodded. "I know. I should go." "No," Madonna said quickly. "Don't go. Stay. Please stay." "Where?" Madonna thought for a second. Then she smiled. A real smile, the kind Carol remembered from when they were kids. "Come on stage with me." Carol's eyes widened. "What? No, I can't. I'm just—" "You're my best friend," Madonna interrupted. "Or at least you were. And I want 68,000 people to know that. I want everyone to know that before any of this, before the fame, before the records, before Madonna, there was Carol Henderson. And she mattered. She matters." Carol shook her head. "I can't go on stage in front of all those people." "Yes, you can," Madonna said, "because I'll be right there with you, like I should have been for the last 30 years. She took Carol's hand and led her back toward the stage. Carol tried to protest, but Madonna wasn't listening. They walked through the backstage area, past the crew who were trying to figure out what was happening, past the dancers who'd been mid-costume change when the show stopped. When they reached the side of the stage, Madonna turned to her band. "Start Like a Prayer again from the top, and I'm bringing someone on stage with me." The musical director nodded, still confused, but rolling with it. Madonna and Carol walked out onto the stage together, hand in front of 68,000 people. The crowd erupted, not because they understood what was happening, but because they could see Madonna was happy, was real, was doing something completely off script. Madonna walked to the microphone with Carol beside her. Carol was shaking, terrified, completely out of her element. Madonna squeezed her hand. "I want to tell you about this woman," Madonna said to the crowd. Her voice was hoarse from crying, her makeup was ruined, and she'd never looked more human. "Her name is Carol Henderson, and when I was 8 years old and my mother died, Carol sat with me at the funeral and held my hand for 3 hours straight. She didn't say anything. She didn't try to make it better. She just held my hand." The crowd was silent, listening. "When I was 16 and I wanted to be a dancer, but everyone told me I wasn't good enough, Carol came to every single one of my recitals. Every one, even the terrible ones, especially the terrible ones." Carol was crying, Madonna was crying, and 68,000 people were crying with them. "When I was 19 and I left Michigan to chase my dreams in New York, Carol and I had a fight, a terrible fight. And for 30 years, we let pride and hurt and stubbornness keep us from talking to each other." Madonna turned to look at Carol. 30 years. We wasted 30 years because we were both too scared to say we were sorry. She turned back to the crowd. But tonight, in a crowd of 68,000 people, I saw her face, and I realized that some friendships don't die. They just wait. They wait for you to be brave enough to say you were wrong, to say you're sorry, to say that you miss them. The crowd was on their feet now, applauding through their tears. Madonna looked at Carol. "I was wrong. I'm sorry, and I miss you. I've missed you for 30 years. Carol, shaking and crying and completely overwhelmed, managed to speak into the microphone that Madonna offered her. I'm sorry too, and I've missed you every single day. Madonna pulled her into another hug, right there on stage in front of everyone. The band started playing Like a Prayer again, and instead of performing it the way she'd rehearsed hundreds of times, Madonna just stood there, holding her childhood best friend, while the choir sang, and the audience sang with them. It was messy, it was unplanned, it was completely wrong for the carefully choreographed production that the tour was supposed to be. And it was the most beautiful moment of the entire show. When the song ended, Madonna walked Carol to the edge of the stage. "Don't disappear again," she said. "I won't," Carol promised. "I mean it. I want your phone number. I want to meet your kids. I want to—" Madonna paused. "I want my friend back." "You have her," Carol said. "You've always had her." Carol left the stage to thunderous applause. Madonna finished the concert, but everything felt different now. Every song felt more real, more raw, more honest, because she'd just done something she hadn't done in 30 years of performing. She'd stopped being Madonna the icon and been Madonna Louise Ciccone, the girl from Michigan who'd just gotten her best friend back. After the show, Madonna and Carol sat in her dressing room for 3 hours, just talking, catching up on 30 years, looking at photos on Carol's phone of her 3 kids, hearing about Carol's divorce, her job as a nurse, her life in Detroit, sharing stories about Madonna's career, her own children, the surreal experience of being famous. "Do you regret it?" Carol asked, "leaving Michigan, choosing this life?" Madonna thought about it. "No, but I regret letting you go. I regret choosing pride over friendship. I regret," she smiled, "I regret that it took 30 years for me to see you in a crowd and remember what really matters." They exchanged numbers. They promised to stay in touch. And unlike 30 years ago, they kept the promise. Over the next few years, Carol became a regular presence in Madonna's life. She met Madonna's children. She came to family dinners. She was one of the few people Madonna could talk to about the girl she used to be, before all of this. In interviews, when Madonna talked about that night in Detroit, she always got emotional. "I was performing in front of 68,000 people, she said in a 2010 interview. "I was doing what I'd trained my whole life to do. I was being Madonna. And then I saw Carol, and suddenly none of that mattered. What mattered was that I'd let pride and hurt keep me from my best friend for 30 years. The interviewer asked what she'd learned from the experience. "That you can be performing for 68,000 people and still be lonely," Madonna said. "That fame doesn't fill the spaces that real connection fills. That some friendships are worth stopping a show for." That saying, "I'm sorry, 30 years late," is better than never saying it at all. She paused. And that's sometimes, in a crowd of thousands, you see the one face that reminds you who you were before any of this. And that person is a gift. That moment is a gift, and you don't let it pass by. The video of that night, of Madonna stopping Like a Prayer mid-song, of her bringing Carol on stage, of 2 middle-aged women crying and hugging in front of 68,000 people, went viral. But the real story wasn't visible on the video. The real story was in what happened after. 2 childhood friends rebuilding a relationship, learning how to fit each other into their very different lives, proving that some connections survive even 30 years of silence. Carol gave one interview about the experience, years later. She talked about watching Madonna's career from a distance, always wondering if her old friend ever thought about her. About coming to the concert, not expecting anything, just wanting to see her one more time. About the shock of hearing her name called out in front of 68,000 people. "People ask me if it's weird being friends with Madonna," Carol said. "But she's not Madonna to me. She's Louise, the girl who used to sleep over at my house and raid my mom's makeup. The girl who cried on my shoulder when her mother died. The girl who, she paused, smiling, the girl who was my best friend and is my best friend again. The interviewer asked if she regretted the 30 years they'd lost. Of course, Carol said. But I also learned something important. It's never too late. We could have stayed stubborn. We could have let pride keep us apart forever. But we didn't. We chose to forgive. We chose to reconnect. We chose friendship over pride. She looked directly at the camera. If there's someone you haven't talked to in years because of a fight or hurt or stubbornness, reach out. Say you're sorry. Say you miss them. Don't wait for them to show up in a crowd of 68,000 people. Because they might not, and you might waste your whole life being too proud to make the first move. Madonna and Carol's story became a reminder that even the most successful people carry regrets about lost friendships. That fame doesn't erase the pain of broken connections. That some relationships are worth fighting for, even decades later. And it proved that sometimes the most powerful moment in a concert isn't a perfectly executed dance routine or a note held for an impossible length. Sometimes the most powerful moment is when the performance stops and the real person appears. When Madonna becomes Louise again. When the icon remembers she's also just a girl from Michigan who misses her best friend. If this story moved you, if you have a friend you haven't talked to in years because of pride or hurt or a fight you can't even remember the details of, reach out. Say you're sorry. Say you miss them. Don't let 30 years pass, because time doesn't heal these wounds. It just makes them easier to ignore until you see that face in a crowd and realize what you've lost. Subscribe for more stories about the moments when real life interrupts the performance, when the unexpected becomes beautiful, when we remember what matters. And remember, it's never too late to say you're sorry. It's never too late to forgive. It's never too late to get your friend back.